All right, might as well leave that on the background. All right, let's make sure this is working. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this review. It's gonna be an exciting one because it's personally something I've used now for almost a year. It is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K. Kind of a mouthful, but look at this little futuristic robot camera. This is kind of like my 1 year review on this camera. I used the 4K version of this a little bit before, but right when this was announced, I think it was in August, we're pretty close to a year. So I'm dubbing it the 1 year review. So a couple things before we really get into this review. I'm in my garage. I got a haircut. Our film festival is awesome. This is like 2 days later. I've been really wanting to get this review up because we are carrying Blackmagic cameras now in the Moment shop. I'm super excited about that personally because I think this camera specifically is a really important camera for a lot of people. It might not be the camera for you, and it might be the camera for you. So the plan for this review, it's not gonna be super technical because all that information is out there on everyone else's reviews. I wanna tell you my experience using this awesome little camera for the last year. Let's talk. As a filmmaker myself, even prior to working at Moment, Blackmagic has always piqued my interest because I think what they're doing is really innovative. All their camera bodies look different than any other camera bodies I've seen. I think their colors are awesome. They obviously have DaVinci Resolve. And just the whole like aesthetic of it and the price point is insane. It almost doesn't feel like they're taking a traditional route. So I appreciate that about these cameras. When they announced the 4K and the 6K pocket cinema cameras, I think it was a really big step for them because so many creators were looking at this as a good like budget ARRI Alexa. It's like 6K for 2,000 bucks. It was 13 stops of dynamic range. They had an EF mount on the 6K one, which I really like. Dual native ISO, which means you can shoot at 3200 ISO, which is really high, and still get a really clean look. I personally think the Blackmagic colors are amazing. I think they're, like everyone talks about Canon colors, they're really good. They're natural. I don't think they look like it has a plasticky look at all. I think it's a very cinematic look. And again, for the price point, you can't beat it. You can see here, I rip off all these side guards because most of the time I do have an HDMI plugged into it, a microphone plugged into it, this 12 volt for a V-mount battery, which I've had to buy, and we'll get into the battery life in a little bit. USB-C, which is great because they can run storage into an external SSD. In all reality, I've been using this camera a lot for YouTube. We've had, for Moment here, we've had a few of like our product launch videos that I love using this for, some of the lesson stuff, anything that takes a little bit more time and is more of like a cinematic look. However, I have vlogged with it too. I've taken this thing to New York multiple times. I throw on a wide lens and I do one of these. Which you do need a monitor to see yourself. So I have like a small HD that flips around and you do need to use manual focus. The form factor is awesome. It has this grip right here, which I like. It actually has 2 neck straps, which at first I thought were pointless, but I found myself carrying this camera around more than I thought I would on little trips, vacations, very stripped down like this. Maybe not this lens because you kind of want to rig it up or have some stability. This is like a 55, I think, and with the crop, it's super 35, so it's a little bit longer of a focal length. But I'll throw on like a 16 mil lens, even a 35 on this, carry it around my neck. You're kind of just cruising. Comparing this camera to like a Z-Cam or one of the newer kind of cinema-based cameras, the fact that it has a screen on it is really nice. Now the screen is actually really good. I'll turn it on and let's see if that'll even, hi. My God. Now, when you hold it down here, it is hard to like, there's no tilt on it. I wish it had a flip out screen or even a little bit of articulation. That would be nice, but it's all good. I mean, if you're rigging it out, chances are you have a monitor. It's touch screen, which feels really nice. The menus are all super simple to navigate. It feels like a big phone on the back, and our generation, we're all used to touchscreen devices, so the natural touchscreen on this, I think they did a great job with it. I love it doesn't feel gimmicky. The screen itself has a really high resolution. So the 3 function buttons on the top are super nice. I have one set to zebra stripes for exposure. I have one set to clean feed, so I can like frame my shot perfectly on this screen. And none of the menu or numbers are on it. And then I have one set to displaying the LUT, so I can shoot in a flat profile, or film profile they call it, and I can toggle the LUT on and off, so it adds that contrast and saturation back in, so it looks like an actual good shot. It's good to check for that. On the top here, you have your record button, and right next to that, you have a dedicated stills mode. I haven't used that a ton, but I've shot a couple times on it, and it's pretty cool to take a photo. You have dedicated ISO, shutter speed, white balance buttons up here. I don't think I've ever used these. Just because I do everything on the touchscreen and it's pretty set. I wish they included a cold shoe on the top. I bought an adapter for that, so it screws into this 1/4-20 top thread and then into a cold shoe for a minimalist approach. And then I also bought a full cage as well because everyone else was doing it, so I thought I had to. And in hindsight, I don't know if I would do that. I would go as minimal as you can on this camera because the idea that it's a pocket camera is really nice. The built-in preamps are a huge negative. I think they're bad. I don't think the sound quality is pretty good, like with these built-in mics, but the levels are always low even when you're cranking them up. Even with an external microphone, it doesn't sound too good. You can definitely get away with it, but compared to a lot of cameras on the market now, the preamps in this thing are not amazing. So I bought the XLR adapter with phantom power out. That sounds pretty good, but that's gonna suck your battery even more. So going on the more minimalist approach here, I have one battery right in here, Canon LPE6 style battery. And to be honest, I have like 6 of them. And if I carry 6 of these little batteries around, I can usually feel confident to shoot for like YouTube style video or like on and off, not like recording all day. I can shoot for a day on like 5 or 6 of them. You might be fine with like 3, but the battery life on this thing is crazy bad. I mean, it sucks juice like you wouldn't believe. Like it loves iced lattes. Because of that, I bought a V-mount battery, which when you rig it up, it's actually a nice solution to counterbalance some of the weight when you have it on a tripod or a shoulder rig, or even like a nice handheld rig. A V-mount battery is great, and then you can plug it in, and I've shot literally all day on one V-mount battery. I've seen some other YouTubers also use a display with like a chunky, big, like Sony style battery, which has like an output to charge your camera too. So there are options for batteries on this camera. I would not let the battery issue make you get hung up on this camera. I think the pros way outweigh the cons. I mean, my real cons are battery life, weak preamps, and yeah. You can shoot on SD card or CFast card or USB-C out to an SSD. I've actually been shooting a ton of stuff on an SD card because you can get SD cards for cheap. You can shoot 4K ProRes right to them. Most of the time I'm shooting 24 frames per second, not a lot of higher frame rate stuff like 50 or 60p. Most people might think I'm crazy for not shooting RAW on this all the time, but with my workflow, ProRes is an amazing codec. I think ProRes looks, it's like perfect. It's like, it doesn't take up too much where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to buy a bunch of hard drives just to shoot one video because I shot in 6K RAW. But ProRes 4K, that's what primarily I've been shooting a lot in on this camera. Most of the footage you'll see in this video that I'm putting up is 4K ProRes. And I've been really, really happy with it. I think the colors, dynamic range, all play more into that than resolution does. Unless you're like a heavy colorist and you want raw footage specifically to color grade, that's not me. I'm more just making content for moment, content for myself on the side, and 4K ProRes and a flat picture profile, you get your white balance dialed in, you'll be fine. The battery icon in the top right will sometimes go from like 20% all the way to 0, even with name brand Canon LPE6 batteries, so be careful. If you're on the end of a battery, just be prepared. You should swap it before an important shot. Yeah, so ProRes, I usually shoot ProRes 422 is the codec that I like, Ultra HD. I shoot in film. Sensor area is 6K, so it gives you the full sensor and it's not cropping it at all. I shoot in 24 frames per second, and yeah. Record LUT to clip is pretty interesting. I have some LUTs that I really like, and if the turnaround is really fast, oh my God. The fact that you can record the LUT to the clip is really, really nice. The times I use that are when I'm passing the footage off to somebody who I know might not have time for color grading or doesn't even want to deal with color grading. Because the LUT looks so good already, they can do some minor tweaking and then you have a very good looking file right off the camera, so you don't even think about it. It does have 180 frames per second, but it crops in so much and I don't think it looks that good, so I don't really use that too often. This is very much a filmmaker's camera and less of a YouTuber's camera, I would say. Just because autofocus like this, when you're showing a product like this, talking to the camera, it's really nice to have autofocus. I grew up shooting manual focus a ton, so I'm used to manual focusing if I'm behind camera. If I'm in front of camera, that's kind of the last thing you want to worry about. I wish they had good autofocus in this. It would make it insane. Shooting with like the Tokina 11-16, which I call my YouTube lens. I'll shoot on that a lot still for work. I can manual focus it, and if I'm sitting in a position like this, am I in focus here? But yeah, if you're a YouTuber that relies mostly on talking head and you want autofocus, probably not the camera for you. I would not recommend that. If you're a filmmaker and all you care about is the image, and you're like, I will die for the image, this camera is for you. I think it looks super good for the price. To be completely honest, I would say this is similar to how filmmakers want to shoot 16mm film. 16mm film is a pain in the butt to shoot. You have to like get the whole thing, you gotta get the film, you gotta learn how to set it all up, and you fantasize shooting 16mm, but it's actually a really big pain versus having autofocus and stuff for just YouTube, right? Now, all that to say, I want to shoot 16mm film. It looks insane. The colors are awesome. I kind of see this as the same thing. It's kind of a pain to use. It can be cumbersome. You might have to get a few extra things, a few extra accessories to make it work. But when you get the footage back to your computer, you're so stoked. You're looking at the footage and you're saying, that looks good. That was worth the effort. So that's kind of the way I look at this camera. If you are a filmmaker and you want to make short films, you want to make commercials, or even like if your YouTube channel is more like B-roll with voiceover or something like that, definitely buy this camera. You'll be so stoked. I mean, if you just take your time, set up your shots, and you're using this, I don't know if there's a better image right now for the price point. Man, that was a lot of talking, but the more effort you want to put in, if you want to learn filmmaking, this is a perfect camera for that too. Woo! All right, all that to say, yeah. Sick camera, we're selling it in the Moment shop now. I hope you enjoyed this review. It's probably a bit different than some other reviews you've seen, but overall, those are kind of my points of a year of using this thing. Can you use it as a YouTube camera? Absolutely. Get the right lens, get a monitor, use manual focus. Would I use it as a YouTube camera? Well, I have, but a lot. But no, there's definitely other options for that. But this probably is the best kind of filmmaker's just camera. So buy it from our site if you want it, and if you're saving up for it, definitely won't be disappointed. Check the link below. There's a full written review of this too with some more photos and details. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoy my rambling and some of the B-roll and some of the shots I've gotten with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Blackmagic Designs. There it is. See you guys. Peace.